welcome you to our board meeting for today. We appreciate everyone being here, and note that normally we meet the last Tuesday of the month, but because of Memorial Day we moved it to a Wednesday. Trust everyone got that information, and so we'll go ahead and stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Go ahead and do roll call. And let me just check. Commissioner Evans? Present. Commissioner Talcott? Present. Commissioner Swenson? Commissioner Trapila? Present. Commissioner Trowitz?
Here, we got one trap.
Commissioner Robinson is absent and notified us that he would not be here today, and I am here, so everyone but Commissioner Robinson is here. First item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Consent agenda is made up of routine day-to-day items that require board action but do not appear to have a significant public impact. Items may be pulled from the consent agenda for separate discussion vote by any board member. We have approval of board minute meetings April 30th, 2013, and committee minutes of May 7th and May 16th. We have payroll checks totaling $54,858.38. We have maintenance and operation checks totaling $682,452.66. We have a passenger facility charge requiring approval for $48,000. And we have the finance reports for April included. Before the board entertains a motion for approval, or before the chair entertains a motion for approval, I just have a question. They had an error in the financial reports. Is Maria here? And I think she may have changed that, but I'd like to know if she did, because one of the columns did not add up. So why don't we go ahead, I would entertain a motion to approve everything but the financial reports until she comes back. I want to
Mr.
verify
Chairman,
that.
I move that we pass the consent agenda as presented, minus the financial error.
Minus the financial reports?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? And when she comes back, we'll circle back to that item. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. All right. With the exception of the financial reports, the consent agenda passes. Let's go directly to the director's report. Director?
Yeah, so we have a couple items to report on, and keep it fairly short. The budget committee, budget and audit committee did meet last month, and as you may recall at the last board meeting, the full board voted to defer the decision on the financing to the budget audit committee. The budget audit committee did select Wells Fargo for a refinancing of $13.5 million. Our current plan is they made two offers to us on structuring. We could accept a 8-year fixed rate loan with no rate adjustment period for 1.88%, or we could accept a 10-year no refinance period loan or no reset loan for 2.15%. I think what we're leaning towards is a mix of the two. The FedEx lease, it expires in about 8 years. We would like to keep the debt service concurrent with the lease expiration, so that at the end of that period we have more flexibility to renegotiate the lease with FedEx. So we'll probably keep that one at the 8-year term, and then take the rest of the debt out to a 10-year term. Most of our debt's got about a 9-year schedule left on it, so it'll be pretty close to the existing schedule, and it'll allow us to reduce our debt load slightly. So we have made the notifications to Wells Fargo and US Bank, the two respondents to the RFP, and then you'll see down later on the agenda we've got a resolution that we want to put before the board for approval. So that refinancing RFP is complete. We've got Wells Fargo as the low bidder, and we plan on negotiating with them over the next couple of months to get that done over the summer. And then lastly, Frontier did start on May 17th. Some of you came up, we had a a brief groundbreaking or ribbon cutting for the new hold room. So our new hold room is now operational. Frontier moved into that with their first flight, and we've got that area over next to Delta now that has 2 gates on it, seating for about 140, and operates basically as one giant hold room. So it's a good place for our Airbus since it's such a large plane over there. It looks really nice. And so far Frontier's done fairly well. We've had, on Fridays, they're completely full so far. Some of the flights, other times during the week, have dropped all the way down to about 105, 106 people on them. And so I think, if with any luck, we'll finish the month around 80% or more, which would be a good target for the first month of operation. Over the summer, I don't think we'll have any problem getting that flight up over 85, 90%. So we're hopeful that that'll improve. And then September will be the biggest challenge. That's a critical month. I know Frontier's looking at that month to see how full year service might look if they ever did that in the future, and even really the next year's traffic. They really want to see September improve if they're going to come back next year. So we'll be continuing to advertise and put some parking coupons out there for that September time frame to get usage up. And that's really all I have since we covered most of the things in the retreat.
All right, very good. Any questions for the director on the report? All right, we'll go to the number 1 action item here, public hearing on refinancing. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just on the capital funding plan, we've got another terminal. Did this get passed out? Everybody get a copy of this?
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got our terminal funding budget and spending plan. Just to update the board. In the month of May, the change orders are slowing down as we anticipated. We've got a couple closeouts there. We only used about $25,000 of our $49,000 in owner material testing. So we're taking $24,000 out of the budget. That's a credit back to the budget because of our testing projects, our testing portion of the program is now done. So we're going to credit $24,000 back. You can see the $49,000 in testing number 7 up there that we set aside back when the project started. That's an offset to that $49,000. We also had to purchase the boiler coolant, I guess is the boiler chemical that goes in the boiler system. Our system, we kind of thought we might have enough in there when we charged up the new system. We had to add some more, so that was about glycol. Yeah, so we had to add about $10,000 in chemical to that, so we could charge up the new portion of the system. And then the last piece of it is we're still working with the project team on the color of paint for the elements outside the checkpoint. It was originally spec'd as just a paint, but we can't find a paint that matches well to the rust color that we have on the railings out there. So we're looking at change ordering it to a 2-part process, like we did with the railing, and just matching that directly. And that's going to cost us about $6,500 more to match that because it is a fairly complex process. So when we get through May, we expect we'll have about $213,643 spent of our contingency set aside, leaving us with about $227,260 remaining. The other thing I would note up above is on the passenger boarding bridge, up where it says additional costs. That part of the project is complete. That bridge is active, and we ended up spending about $250 on that. So we saved about $100,000 there. And we'll talk a little bit later in the agenda about the backflow preventer on the terminal exit, the terminal checkpoint exit. But we plan to fund that terminal exit lane out of savings elsewhere in the project. We think that'll be about $100,000. And we think we have enough savings in the project, we can fund that through the project budget. And that's been necessitated by changes in TSA policy.
Right.
And that's all I have on that.
So is most of that going to come out of the 227, or is there additional?
Well, we've got the $100,000 we saved on the boarding bridge.
Okay.
So we have 227 remaining in the contingency. We've got about 327 remaining on the project budget.
Gotcha.
So we think we can cover that 100,000 out of the 327.
Okay. Any questions for the director on capital funding? All right, before we go to item number 1, Maria, we passed the consent agenda with the exception of the financial reports. I wanted to clarify if we got that
I have the
error
page 2. There was
corrected.
thanks for reading my report.
Thank Deb.
There was the grand totals and everything else is correct, but there were 2 items that are the cross put in the middle. So I printed the corrected page 2 for the budget. So I could actually give you the pages, so you have, some of you have them in your,
Well, I think it's just the one page, isn't it?
yeah, it's on the front, I printed the copies.
Okay,
the
yeah,
correction.
I think we can just see the correction, I think that's
Yeah.
what we're looking for, yeah. And that all totals now the 509, 506?
Yeah,
And you had,
everything changes, everything remains the same except for those,
and you had loading bridges, both, one
that's
is for Delta.
the other one
and-
is Delta.
And what's the line 45 for it? Oh, that was for the next year.
So we have two loading bridge
Right.
fees. You may recall a couple years ago, we purchased the Delta bridge directly from Delta. Actually, we bought them both, but one of them was only $1.
Everybody has a copy?
The Delta Bridge, we agreed we would just charge them back for that over a 10-year period. So they have a direct agreement with us on, it's like a lease of equipment. Then we have, with the new agreement negotiations 2 years ago, when I renegotiated the airline agreement, we also instituted a loading bridge fee. And what that is any airline that had a loading bridge with us at the time didn't have to pay, but when we agreed when we replaced loading bridges, we would set up a new cost center for the loading bridges, and we would add the capital costs into that. And then any airline that had a new loading bridge would have to pay the combined cost divided by the number of bridges we had. So there's two separate items. We have a direct agreement with Delta. That's the one item you see up above. And then we also have a loading bridge fee, which we charge now to United, and Allegiant pays, and so does Frontier on their per turn. Eventually, Allegiant will probably pay one, and potentially Alaska too, as we replace those loading bridges. So there's two different mechanisms that we have there to recover those costs. We told the airlines if they provided one, we would charge them just the basic return cost. If we had to buy one, we would charge them an amortized fee plus a cost of capital.
Okay. Right, financial reports now seem to be in order. The Chair would entertain a motion for approval of financial reports for April.
Move that, approve them.
Second.
I'll second.
By the way, on that report for the April one, during the budget meeting, I think there was a request to make it less information. So it's kind of more information, but the front page is the summary. So if you don't want to read the next ones that supports the summary, then you can get everything on the front page.
Okay, very good, thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, very good, thank you. Thank you, Maria, for making those changes. All right, item number 1, public hearing on refinancing. This is requiring the board approval for the resolution granting preliminary approval for the issuance and sale of revenue refunding obligations for the Great Falls International Airport.
No, we have, excuse me, we have a draft resolution. We plan to take out $13.5 million in debt. That'll refinance the U.S. bank note that finances the FedEx building. It'll also take out the terminal expansion, the last terminal expansion financing, which is bonds with a call period in at the end of August and the second call period in November. There's 2 different series in that issuance. So we'll refinance all that debt, which adds up to about $13 million. We'll get about $500,000 in new money, which will go towards our snow barn, and that's all combined in this resolution that we're doing here today. Hoping to get approved today to refinance those bonds.
All right. Board, or the chair would entertain a motion for approval.
I move that we approve the refinancing as proposed by staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion?
I think we have to ask for public comment.
We do. I want to make sure they.
Yeah.
It's a good job. It was a great meeting when we went over that. It was a good analysis.
Yeah, it was.
Good job.
Right.
And 2 really competitive proposals. I have to say there was barely slide a piece of paper between the 2.
Is there any comment from the public on this item? Peter, any questions or anything? All right. Any questions from the public? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if there be any by the same sign. Motion is approved.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm removing myself from any discussion for the next two agenda items.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Talcott. Let the minutes reflect that Commissioner Talcott has recused himself from involvement in the next two discussion items on the agenda. All right, item number 2, CH2M regarding the construction observation for the SRE building, and this has to do with their engineering services agreement. Is that correct?
That's right. Item number 2 is the agreement for construction observation services. That's the engineering services during construction to ensure that work's being done as designed and in accordance with any FAA rules and regulations that apply to that work, since it is a grant-funded project. FAA recommends that we have full on-site observation of some sort during the project, either from our staff or from other staff of the, or from engineering staff. And so this helps to supplement our observation of construction services and make sure the contractor's building to design.
All right. So you're looking for approval on this?
That's right.
All right. So the chair would entertain a motion for approval for the construction observation services provided by CH2M Hill for the Airport Authority improvement project.
I'll move it, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Okay, the motion has been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any questions? Is there any questions? All right, all in favor of the motion, would you indicate?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, if there be any? All right, the motion has been approved. Next item on the agenda, the acceptance of the bid for the snow removal equipment building. Director, do you want to give us some background on that?
Absolutely. We, in your packet here, we have the snow removal equipment budget and funding. This is the, it's been revised even since the packets went out a little bit. We got our final grant number just on Friday, what we'll receive in entitlements this year. So we revised the budget to reflect that. We also have put the actual bid results in this package. We have split the bid into 2 packages. The low bidder on package 1, which is primarily grading and utility work, was Dick Anderson Construction, and the low bidder on the package 2, which is the actual building construction, was James Talcott Construction. The combined total construction budget for the 2 bids is $2,407,100. And you can see we've got our construction management contract at $128,000. We will have paid about $249,130 in design, which brings the total project construction budget to $2.784230 for our project cost. We've reduced the contingency somewhat down to $225,000, which brings us to a total project budget for the project of $3,009,230. The funding plan for that, we've got our actual entitlements for the year that the FAA provided to us. We've got our cargo carry forward from last year. We did not use our cargo entitlements, and so we'll carry that into the project budget, about $85,000. We'll get about $750,000 from the financing. When we do refinancing this year, we've got some new money in there. And then we asked the airlines to contribute to this project to the cost of $350,000, which we'll recover over 2 years, starting this July. And then lastly, we're anticipating a potential reserve contribution of $41,000 so that we can complete all phases of the construction and get the project complete. That brings our total funding to the $309,230. I'd note that we've got $225,000 in contingency dollars in there, so if everything were to go to plan, we hope that we won't have to spend that $41,000 out of reserves for contingency, but we do anticipate that we may have to, so it's in there. And then lastly, we've got nothing right now in our contingency budget that we plan to spend. We were carrying the full $225,000. So That's our revised budget for the project. Like I said, it's divided into 2 bid packages, and we would like the board to approve, accept both bids from, or accept the bid from Dick Anderson Construction. Hey, Rod, do you have that total amount on that bid?
I don't.
Chad, do you happen to have that? The 2 bid amounts?
Yeah, 673,257 was bid package 1, Dick Anderson's bid.
I thought I broke those 2 out in that spreadsheet, but I didn't. And then the second bid was
James Talcott bid on bid package 2, 1,542,165.
165. So what we'd like is the board to approve bid package 1 to Dick Anderson Construction for $763,257, and bid package 2 to James Talcott Construction for $1,542,165.
Just a correction on it, 673,257 on bid package 1.
Oh, I'm sorry. Transpose the number there. $673,257.
Correct.
All right.
Thank you.
Do you need this as 2 separate motions or just one?
That can be in the same motion, I think.
All right, at this time, the chair would entertain a motion for approval for bid package number 1 and bid package number 2 regarding the construction of the snow removal equipment building.
I also move.
You weren't going to restate that, were you?
Well, no, I had to cross out my own numbers and correct them, so
Okay.
no.
All right, so the motion is to approve bid package 1 to Dick Anderson Construction for $673,257, and bid package number 2 to James Talcott Construction for $1,542,165. Motion has been made. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Second. Is there discussion on the motion? Mr. Kotauer.
Question, does that include the utilities?
The utilities, the way we understand it, is more or less a wash. So we're going to have to pay about $70,000 to the city to complete to complete some of the work. But then we get a credit back for about $70,000 because the water line that we're building in the project bid is actually oversized for their purposes. So in the end, we don't expect that we'll be out any additional money for the utility work. So yeah, the utility work, there is utilities construction in bid package 1, and then that'll be exchanged for a credit for the city's work, because the city doesn't let you do electrical work on your own. The same is true with the gas line. Northwest Energy, of course, will do the gas line, but we expect to get refunds adequate to fund the costs that we have to pay to the 2 utility companies.
Any other questions on the motion? Any comments or questions from the audience? Any comments or questions from the audience? All in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed, if there be any, for the same side? Motion is approved.
Great, and just so that the board knows that this we plan to build all phases. The total bid there was for all phases of construction, so we'll get all 4 of our bays. We'll have the ability to build out the offices. The office construction cost is not in any of these costs. We plan to work with AdMax to sell them our building or lease them our building down at the upper shop, and then with those proceeds, we'd come back and build out our offices and make the move at some later date.
All right, thank you, Director. Item number 5, change order number 4, airport improvement project number 53, stormwater drainage project.
Doing this.
This
No, we
is,
skipped 4.
You skip.
I'll tell you, I'm just trying to move things along, all right? And I just wanted to see if anybody was really paying attention. It's good to see that you are. Item number 4, air hose contract amendment. And this has to do with the change in our contract with this vendor, correct?
Right. We discussed this last month at the work session, and we had approached Air Host because there will be some changes with the addition going on over here with moving the restaurant back behind security. So they have proposed to us, in return for a 5-year extension onto their contract, they will put up $125,000 worth of furniture and equipment for the new facility over there, and also change our percentages like we talked about earlier, which will mean that we will be taking in more money from them as well. So you can see on the handout that was passed out, you have the current versus the new. We'll basically go and put everything together. Before they were broken out by food, alcoholic beverages, gift and newsstand, and then even the vending machines were different. So it'll just put everything all together, 9% of the sales up to 1 million or less, 12% over $1 million, so on and so forth, and then the vending machines, we also get more off of that. Before we were just getting $41 a month. So vending machines should go down, hopefully, as the restaurant goes up. So nothing has changed from what we talked about last month. Do you guys have any questions?
All right, very good. Chair would entertain a motion for approval.
Also move, Mr. Chair.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion?
This was an automatic renewal.
In
They
the
had an
lease
option
agreement,
left.
yeah, the lease agreement had a 5-year extension option, and it was more or less just stated like that there was a 5-year extension option that they could exercise, and so our reading of it when we got talking to Mick was we would have to present some reason why we wouldn't award that, and in discussions with air hosts over the last 2 or 3 years, we've been talking about how we can increase our revenue, and a big part of the problem was the contract, and so we really told them we've got to improve on these revenues. So what they've come back with is a structure that, in a lot of cases is going to double the revenue we take off of the sale. And so that's the main benefit we saw. But yeah, the 5-year extension is actually in their contract, and our read on it was we would have had to show some reason why we wouldn't award that extension. But sort of on their own, in our discussions with air hosts, they came back and said, okay, we'll update your contract to a more current revenue percentage share. And this is very similar to newer deals like us. Rapid City just did a recent deal for a new concessionaire, and our percentages are right in line with theirs. So it really does update the contract, which has been out there a very long time.
Well, I would hope with the terminal remodel and the expansion of their opportunity with the restaurant, that they will step up to the plate and increase the quality of their product and service.
Yeah, I think with the new location, particularly in the gift shop, it gives us a new opportunity how we present and what we present. And the restaurant over there too, I think it's going to give us a fresh start to where we can update what they've been doing and provide a little bit more variety for folks. Hopefully people respond to that. Particularly in the gift shop, I think there's a lot more we can do. The restaurant out here, it does generally a pretty decent job from what I've seen. And then we've got the business upstairs, which is, we would like to see ourselves kind of get back to where we were a couple of years ago. There's definitely some things I think we could improve there in terms of the service and quality up in the meeting rooms.
They're certainly not victors.
Most people don't even know what you're talking about there, GC, except us old timers. Any other discussion on the motion? Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed if there be any? Motion is approved. Thank you. Item number 5, change order number 4, airport improvement project number 53, stormwater drainage project. Is this going to be the last time this one is going to grace our presence?
I think so. Going all the way back to Grant, I think we actually got in calendar year 2010. This is the stormwater drainage project, and this is the closeout of this project. You may recall United Materials had a claim on the project. We sat down with them with CH2M Hill and negotiated a final payment settlement. And what that, more or less what happened is there were some issues with the survey. That was the year we had all the snow. The survey points turned out to be accurate, but the interpolation between them was not. And what we ended up with some deeper cuts that the scrapers were incapable of doing, and we had to do with bigger earth moving types of equipment. And so they asked for it to be paid out more or less as embankment or deep cut, whatever you call it, as opposed to scraper work. The FAA eventually agreed to that, and so what we're looking to do is to modify the change order, the project to increase the amount of the contract in the neighborhood of $13,631. That's going to result in additional payment from us of $682 from the authority. It's still within the engineer's estimate for the project, but the total amount for the total additional amount for the project is going to be $13,631 to the project. Of that, $682 comes from us.
Right? Is there a motion for approval? Second?
Second.
Discussion on the motion. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed if there be any? Motion is approved. Thank you. Last action item, well, no, not the last action item. Next item for action is the terminal project exit lane change order, and as the board will recall, this has to do with the TSA vacating the supervision and security for the exit lane, creating an additional cost for the airport. So, Director, you want to
about 3 weeks ago,
that again?
Yeah, sure. About 3 weeks ago, the TSA made a proclamation that they would like to hand exit lanes back to the airport starting on January 1st in response to some of the sequestration budget cuts. And more or less what that operation is simply to prevent somebody from walking backwards up the exit lane and getting into the secure area. Many airports over the years have put in various technological improvements to keep people from doing that, and then they could take that TSA person and put it into put them into the checkpoint to do other jobs. We had developed the terminal plans on the assumption that TSA was going to staff that exit lane, so obviously we were a little concerned when that announcement came out nationwide. What we plan to do is there's a product out there called Exit Sentry. It's basically a light curtain. There's 2 monitors. They need a 20-foot section of hard wall, and they put the 2 monitors out there, and it creates a light curtain. And when you walk through both beams going the wrong direction, it can sense that. Even if you throw a baseball through the wrong direction, it can sense that too. And that'll trigger a series of alarms and sirens to tell people with an announcement that says you're going the wrong way, don't enter, it's exit only type of message. In addition to that, we think down at the entrance to the exit, if that makes any sense, at the secure area side of the exit when you're coming out, we want to put a door that's held by a magnetic lock on there so that if you break the second beam, that door will be hinged to the wall and it'll start to close. And we think that'll give us the physical barrier to really make the system more beneficial for that purpose of keeping people from going down the exit lane. In addition, right there, TSA will be on the other side of a glass wall. They will see the person when the lights and sirens go off too, and then they can simply walk around, into the exit lane and confront the person. So the idea, with this, what we need to do in order to get this in is we'd like to change order the architectural contract and issue a sole source to purchase the Exit Sentry equipment. We think that the Exit Sentry itself is probably in the neighborhood of $30,000 to $50,000 to implement. It also includes a video capture function where there'll be a picture taken of the person that's going the wrong way. And then the rest of a $100,000 budget would be used to install a door on magnetic keepers so that can close. There are other solutions. There's a Doppler radar system offered by a separate vendor. That has had some issues getting calibrated at a number of airports. It's been fairly difficult to get that system up and running, but there are several examples of that. Bozeman tried to do it last year with the Doppler radar. They couldn't get it to work right, so they actually put in their old system back into the terminal, their new terminal checkpoint. And so they had some issues there. There's also a couple of airports like Missoula, and I believe Kalispell is doing the same thing, that have put in revolving doors. If you've seen our checkpoint exit, it's probably a 20-foot wide corridor. If we put in 2 revolving doors, kind of like what Missoula has, it's going to choke down the flow out on that hallway. So you'll have a queuing where people are waiting to get in one of the holes in the revolving door. In addition to that, our insurance carrier, who was out just a few months ago doing their annual audit, mentioned an airport in Indiana, or actually Illinois, that had a number of injuries between people getting the fingers pinched, or if somebody gets a bag stuck in there, the thing stops abruptly, and sometimes they end up hitting their face on the door. Small children and things like that. I know there was recently one of the airports had somebody stuck in there for about 20 minutes. We just think the best solution for us is to keep that corridor as open as possible and not choke it down. The other thing we could do instead of hinge doors is a lot of people have sliding doors, but even then, to get the sliding door to work, you have to have a panel width that you're choking the hallway down so the door has somewhere to slide to. We really think a hinge door with a magnetic holder is the best way to go, so we can have the full width of the hallway, and when that needs to close, it'll just release and close. We met 2 weeks ago with the regional federal security director from the TSA. He is happy with the Exit Sentry product for our solution, combined with some type of camera trap, some type of video camera trap, and then our security responding to the checkpoint. He's okay with that solution. So what we're asking the board for is, if you read our procurement policies, we said we'll try to avoid sole sources unless, and in the case of specific technology or in emergency situations. I don't think this is necessarily an emergency, but I think the specific technology we need to use is the Exit Sentry system. And so we'd like to ask the board for permission to do a sole source to acquire the Exit Sentry, which will be changed ordered into the architecture contract. The budget we think we can cover with the savings off of the loading bridge within the project budget. So we don't need budget authorization. We just need authorization for that sole source.
All right, at this time, the chair would entertain a motion for a change order for sole source authorization to perfect the security system for the exit lane at the expansion point.
I move authorization of the sole sourcing the exit lane technology.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Discussion on the motion. JC?
Who's responsible for security at the airport? Is it the airport or TSA?
Ultimately, it's the airport.
Well, the point I'm getting at is TSA checks the people in onto the airplanes. We have a responsibility to check them off as well.
No, it's the system is only to prevent somebody who hasn't been credentialed from walking up the exit and getting into the checkpoint.
If there's 20, 30, 50 people going down that hallway, how in the world is it going to tell one walking backwards very slowly up the hallway?
It's the technology they use is somehow a light curtain that if you walk through the 2 points of it, it can identify you going backwards. And they're very sensitive. We had the exact same technology in Colorado when I was down there.
Yeah, but if there's 10 people in that curtain at once, how's it going to tell?
It can do it. I mean, I don't know the specific magic that's in the box, but it's pretty accurate.
And each swinging door is going to be 10 feet wide.
Yeah, the idea is the two panels that would release and close.
Each 10 feet wide.
Yep.
Corridor's 12, it's over 12 feet.
Oh, is it 12 feet?
Yeah.
Okay, so 6 foot door.
6 feet wide.
Yeah, so I think with the sliding door, then you're gonna neck it down even more, so I think the swinging doors.
Yeah, you'd have to go 4, 4, and 4 if you did the sliders, because you'd have to have a 4-foot panel to hide the slider, and then the slider itself would be 4. So now you're down to an 8-foot corridor, you know.
Well, I really think this whole problem is TSA's, it's not ours.
You know, it's an interesting argument they made the other day at the conference, because we have to do all the gate work, you know, all the gates. I mean, TSA, you know, they'll go and see if we're doing the gates, but the gate security is our responsibility. So their point of view is, it's just another access point like the gate. You know, and you know, I thought it was an interesting way of presenting the subject. I don't know if it's right or wrong. I personally think it's wrong, but a lot of airports have put in a system anyway, even though they have a TSA person sitting there, just to prevent the backflow from happening. And you know, I think given the sequestration cuts for next year, I think TSA is going to push very hard to make this happen. And ultimately, if the sequestration cuts don't happen, the benefit to us is that agent that has to sit there can now be reassigned back into the checkpoint to help move the checkpoint along.
Commissioner Evans.
Partially answered this because you said you had familiarity with this from the other report. I was going to ask if there were references or anything.
Yeah, I
Any
talked.
problems with these?
There hasn't been that I can find. Like I said, the Doppler system has been very difficult to get set up, and in the case of Bozeman, it ultimately failed, and they went back to their old system. The Exit Sentry, that's what we had in Colorado Springs. The only thing that came up with that system when we first put it in, we had a window next to it, and it picked up the clouds going the wrong way on the floor. There was actually the reflection of the cloud on the floor was somehow setting the sensor off when the winds were blowing that direction. And so, we kept getting false alarms and didn't figure it out for the longest time. And then ultimately they put in some opaque film, and that fixed the issue because it wasn't picking up the cloud. But I talked to Sioux Falls. They have this system in, and it went in fairly easily, and they have it sounds like a really good system set up that they're very happy with. I called 2 or 3 of their other references too, and then I talked to a few airports like Rapid City and a couple others about what their installation's been like that didn't have this system. They had others. And so I think, of the systems that are available right now, this technology is the easiest to get in. It's fairly affordable compared to some of the other solutions, like those revolving doors. I'm told that's a $300,000 setup. And so this is actually much cheaper than some of those solutions. The only hesitation I have to it is the camera trap. That just means if somebody does go up the thing backwards, our security guys are going to have to go review the video and monkey around with that. So it's one more thing that we're going to have to do to figure out, who this person is. If they somehow get up there and get past our door, then of course at that point we're probably calling the police and finding this person and dumping the entire concourse. The nice thing about the revolving doors is it's almost impossible, to get through them. But then again, how often is that really a factor?
Thank you. Any other questions for the board? Any other questions?
I just think that this is an expense for TSA, not the airport authority.
I'm sure the other airports feel the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was something I don't think we saw coming immediately, for sure.
No, TSA had brought this up back in 2005 and had backed off the position, and it seemed as though this was, that we were going to be okay to have the exit lane, but with the sequestration cuts, they're looking at it as a major cost savings opportunity for around the nation. As you can imagine, that's quite a few agents sitting at checkpoints.
And I would not imagine under any circumstances there'd be any retroactive enumerations back to the airports after we go to the expense at some point.
I think there might be some opportunity for that. Actually I do. That's one of the things that was brought up at the annual conference as a question, and there might be some opportunity to get some cost sharing on this retroactively if we can get a solution in place. It just depends on what the bigger airports do. If they decide if they are going to sue and pursue getting the exit lane staffed, that would be one potential outcome. If that happens, we could always, decide we don't want to do this project, but I don't know, it's one of those things where the clock's ticking. They're saying January 1. As of yet, there's not been a suit filed that I know of, and that's coming up, here within almost 6 months.
Very good. Any other discussions on the motion?
I'd like to revisit number 5 if I can quickly. Regarding the change order, we had discussed the change order value of $13,000 and change.
On change order number 4 for the stormwater drainage?
Correct.
Can we wait until we finish voting on this motion?
Certainly.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. Any other discussion?
Did I hear you say, John, if this doesn't happen, if we go ahead with this project and then we find out we don't need it, but we do have the benefit that staff person is going to be assigned to it?
Yeah, we lose that staff person, in our new configuration. They can be assigned back to the checkpoint. So, the one benefit we would have is, they would come back to the checkpoint. I think that ultimately, you see a lot of airports like Colorado Springs where that position has been staffed, and they've also had the alarm system for many years with the video capture. There's a lot of airports that, regardless of the TSA rules, have chosen for security reasons to have this technology in place anyway. In the event that, 3 or 4 people decide they're going to run up the exit lane, that agent's not going to be able to stop 3 or 4 people, or potentially even get a look at 3 or 4 people. So I think ultimately there is benefit in having a detection system like this.
All right. Any other discussion? Last time, any other discussion? Any comment from the public? All right, all in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed, if there be any, by the same sign.
Aye.
Okay, motion is approved. All right, we'll go back to item number 5. Chad?
I had heard the value of an approval of a change order value of $13,000 in some odd cents. I had a colleague of mine email me that change order. I believe it's for 22,775.88. Issued on April 26th and signed by Lonnie Anderson on April 29th.
What did I do?
That was the latest version that I had on file. And I just wanted to confirm the value.
Oh, here we go.
680.
Bottom one, net to the top.
Oh, 949.
I don't even have that.
It's right behind the SRE and air host contract stuff.
I've got that, but I don't have anything behind it.
Change order 4.
Oh, here it
Change
is,
order
sorry.
for dated April 26, 2013.
Change order 4 was 22,775.88.
I've got 13,631 here.
Well, the
That's the
difference,
difference.
it's the increase in the
It's
authorization.
the increase in the authorization.
Okay.
Because we authorized the project at, let's see, so we had to, we authorized the project at a lower amount off the engineer's or the higher amount off the engineer's estimate, and we have to increase the authorization by 13,631 to get to the full authorization for the project.
Okay.
The task order, the change order itself was run back a couple of months ago, but we don't have funding authorization to pay it. That's the problem.
Okay.
That makes any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to confirm that number.
No.
Thank you.
So you're okay with that? Okay, all right. Okay, item number 7 deals with the director's review and his performance for the last 12 months here at the airport. Director has asked to close this part of the meeting, which is his right to do so. However, before we do this, I'll entertain any comments from the audience, because I think we might have some comment from the audience.
Sure. My name is Peter Johnson. I'm a reporter with the Tribune. The Great Falls Tribune respectfully requests this meeting be kept open. We believe the evaluation of the job performance of a key administrator such as Mr. Faulkner is of public interest and value. Therefore, we request either that you as chairman and that the board weigh the merits of such a public meeting versus the rights of individual privacy. Open meeting law allows and suggests you do that. So specifically vote on that, whether or not you think that. Secondly, if that's still your view, you just said what Mr. Faulkner stated, but we would ask that he waive that right to privacy for those same reasons, the public interest, genuine interest in such an evaluation. Thank you.
All right. Is there any comment from the board?
Mr. Chairman, may I respond?
Mr. Kachowicz?
The Tribune and you, Mr. Johnson, didn't make any such request of the former airport director. I saw nothing but support for the former airport director and whatever the board said about her performance. So I don't see where you have a history of being so intimately interested in the current airport director's performance evaluation.
May I respond?
Sure.
I think the Tribune for years has requested these meetings be open. I don't specifically remember about Mrs. Schultz.
I do.
Yeah.
And we have, all of the meetings were on CD.
Well, all right, let's do this. I'm going to ask the board if they have, if they feel that there's anything here that they would like to consider in the form of a motion or a request of the director. Otherwise, we're going to move to a closed session. Is there any desire on the board to bring this up as far as a formal motion? Or would you like to discuss it further?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that it is the history of this board to keep the airport director's evaluation confidential, and I further move that we continue that practice.
And that's at the discretion of the director. That's at the discretion of
At
the
the
director.
discretion of the airport director.
Yeah, I just want to make that clear, that it's the airport, John has the right to keep it closed, and we respect that right.
Right.
And I'm not going to overrule him at this time.
Okay.
Is it our policy is to keep it closed, and he has the right to make it open if he wishes? That's the, seems like it should be.
Yeah, I think the policy is we defer to the director on this. And that's his discretion. And he has asked that it be closed. So, I'm not sure that a motion is necessarily appropriate here, but one's been put before the chairman here. Is there a second to the motion?
I'm sorry, what was the motion? Could you restate it? Tracy?
Basically that we maintain the privacy of the airport director in this proceeding,
I think it's at his discretion.
at his discretion, yes. Should the airport director decide that he wants to keep his performance evaluation closed to the public, then that's his right, and we as the board will affirm that right.
And I think the issue is whether or not the board even needs to make a motion to that effect. You know, whether this board feels that that's necessary. I think that's the issue.
We're just reaffirming policy as it is, right? I mean,
That's what we would be doing.
I think that's all we're doing is reaffirming a long-standing policy. Yeah. So a motion's been made. Is there a second, or does the motion die? Is there a second? Okay, the motion dies for lack of a second. However, I think it still defers back to the existing right of the director.
You know, and I'm happy to address it, you know, on the record. I think the candor of the process suffers in an open process like that. I think the performance of the executive is up for debate every month at a board meeting, and any public person that would like to come address the board or come address me personally is certainly welcome to do that, and they often do. So, you know, we run a very open shop up here, and we try to do our best for the community, and the board is here to be the community's representative to the airport authority. So certainly anyone that has views about my performance or the performance of the broader authority, I know that our board would be happy to hear those. And again, I just think the process runs best in any employment situation where there's trust and honest discussion between an employee and his employer. And so I just ask that we keep the process closed for that purpose.
Peter, I guess I'm going to chime in on this a little bit too. I guess my thought on this is when these sunshine laws came about, they made two provisions, one for litigation matters and one for matters of personnel issues, which it certainly falls into, that would be grounds for a closed meeting. It's been done, you know, in other public forums in the community, and I think that, as the director said, and I absolutely fully support that statement that he just made, that he has every right to ask for a closed session. I personally from my view, I don't think that the public is being denied any type of information. As he indicated, they have every right to come up here, attend the meetings, ask questions. None of that is abrogated by this process of a closed meeting for a director annual evaluation. So I guess I think this is a process that we've done. As the director said, and I concur, I think we're very open up here, very transparent, and I think it's the right thing to do. So that'd be my position on it. Any other discussion? Anyone from the board? All right, at this time then, we'll go ahead and close the meeting, and we'll ask everyone to leave except the director and the board. And I would expect that we would reconvene fairly shortly. So, Chad, at the end of the board meeting today, I just want to catch you for a couple of minutes. Didn't know what your schedule was. So.
If I leave